What if I told you that some of the most mind-bending engineering on Earth was built before iron tools even existed? The Great Pyramid alone holds details that make even modern experts uncomfortable, because the deeper you look, the less sense it makes. And trust me, the Egyptians definitely did not have a Home Depot membership card, even though that would explain a lot. The shocking part is how physical the mystery is. This is not about vague legends or wild stories. This is about hard stone you can physically touch, measure, and test. Let's start with the precision of the pyramid blocks themselves. Some joints are so perfectly tight, even a razor blade cannot slide between them. We see joints measured in fractions of millimeters on stones that weigh several tons. Think about that. Even today, machines struggle to consistently produce that level of precision with such big, heavy pieces. Yet these people did it with bronze tools. Or at least that is what we assume they used, because that is what we know they had at the time. But the simple methods we think they used do not match the results we see. Then look at the weight problem. Many blocks are not small decorative pieces. These are stones weighing several tons each, and somehow they were lifted, moved, placed, and locked into position with accuracy that seems almost impossible. Some stones were hauled from quarries miles away. The hard evidence we have is the stone itself. The mystery is in the process. We still do not have a single method that all experts agree must have been the way they did it. There are ideas, there are theories, but nothing matches every piece of evidence cleanly. And because the stones are physically sitting right in front of us, the questions are impossible to avoid. They are built too well for the simple tools we picture ancient workers using. So when scientists look closely at these joints and these blocks, it forces them to admit that this construction technique does not fit neatly into our timeline of ancient technology. But if this level of precision is enough to make you wonder, just wait, because the pyramids get even stranger when you look at their alignment. The more you look at the pyramid complex overall, the harder it is to brush all of this away as just clever stacking of stones. Because the Egyptians did not just build tall walls, they built with direction. The Great Pyramid is aligned almost perfectly to the four cardinal directions. Not just close, not just in the general area. The margin of error is so tiny that even modern professional surveyors have admitted that replicating that level of alignment without laser equipment would be extremely difficult today. And keep in mind, this was supposedly done around 4,500 years ago with no satellites, no GPS, no digital mapping tools, and no modern measuring instruments. Most of us can barely reverse park straight between two white lines at the grocery store. Meanwhile, they aligned a 6 million-ton structure to true north with shocking accuracy. That alone forces people to stop and think. Then we have the star pattern question. This part is still debated. Not everything is fully confirmed, but many researchers point out that the layout of the three main pyramids on the Giza Plateau seem to line up with certain star formations, especially in the belt region of the constellation we call Orion. The alignment appears to match how those stars looked in the sky around the time the pyramids were built. If this observation is correct, then they were not only building giant structures, they were placing them with an exact location in mind, tied to what they saw above them. That would require advanced astronomy. It would require tracking star movement, understanding patterns, and placing structures not only in the right general direction, but in the right position relative to each other. It is not the kind of random layout you would expect from simple tomb construction. So here is the question that bothers experts. How did they get this level of directional accuracy in a time period where we assume only simple observational techniques existed? Did they use shadows? Did they use the night sky as a measurement tool? Did they use a method we have not discovered yet? We do not have the full blueprint. And if the alignment alone already make your brain stretch, get ready, because the next mystery is even more unsettling. We still cannot agree on how they physically built any of this.
Now we get to the part that truly bothers scientists the most. We still do not have a single building plan that every expert agrees on. There is no one proven method. There are multiple theories, and each one has holes in it. Some say ramps were used, some say internal ramps, some say straight ramps, some say spiral ramps, some say cranes or levering systems. Some of these theories sound possible, some sound less likely, but the point is this: none of them answer every detail. None of them explain every angle, every block, every chamber. And that is not normal for something this giant. Usually when we study ancient structures, we eventually find a method that makes sense. But with the pyramids, we still have nothing that fits perfectly. That alone is worrying for scientists, because this is not small. This is the most studied stone structure on Earth, and yet we still do not have the full explanation. Imagine staring at a math problem for 100 years and still not being sure how the person solved it. That is what this feels like. Then we look at the inside. People often think the pyramids are just giant triangles filled with sand, but the internal structure is extremely complex. There are chambers, passages, shafts, strange angles, sudden turns, and sections that seem to line up with specific places in the sky. Some shafts appear to point towards certain stars and constellations. That part is not fully confirmed, but it is discussed often in research. The point is, this is not a simple tomb design. If all they wanted was a place to bury a ruler, they could have built something much easier, but they made something that feels like a planned system, not just a burial container. Some archaeologists compare it to a machine, not a machine with gears, but a machine in the sense of perfect intention behind every shape. And that is why scientists feel uncomfortable, because no matter what theory they test, there is always some detail the theory cannot explain. And if the building mystery alone is making your head spin, wait until you realize just how tall, massive, and unmatched these structures were for almost 4,000 years straight. Now let's talk about size, because this is the part that makes even modern engineers take a deep breath. The Great Pyramid of Giza was the tallest human-made structure on Earth for over 3,800 years. Think about that. Empires rose and fell. Kingdoms were born and disappeared. Entire languages came and went. And the pyramids, they were still on top. It took modern steel, modern machines, and modern engineering to finally surpass a building made thousands of years earlier when humans were supposedly still early in their technological development. That fact alone makes people freeze for a moment, because you look at that timeline and you realize how strange it is that the biggest, most perfect jump in construction happened that early. And then we talk about the number of stones. Millions of blocks. Millions. Each with weight, each with shape, each one needing to be transported, lifted, positioned, and locked into place. People today struggle to organize a fast food staff schedule. Meanwhile, the Egyptians organized labor, food, water, shelter, quarry work, tool making, stone cutting, transportation, positioning, and thousands of workers in perfect rhythm, all without machines. No forklifts, no cranes, no bulldozers, no trucks. Think about what it takes just to coordinate one large building today. Now multiply that by millions of pieces. You need planning, you need logistics, you need management, you need timing, you need supply flow, and somehow all of that ran smoothly enough to stack stone into a structure that stayed stable for thousands of years without collapsing. Modern engineers have said multiple times that trying to recreate the Great Pyramid today using the same materials, same precision, and same techniques would be extremely difficult. We could build something pyramid-shaped, of course, but building one that matches this exact geometry and precision, that is another story. And that is why scientists still feel a sense of shock when they look at it, because for something this old to still overpower modern understanding is not something you see often. But as unbelievable as the scale and height are, there is still one more twist that pushes everything over the edge. We never found the actual instructions that explain how they did it.
And here is what makes all of this even more eerie. After everything we talked about, the precision, the alignment, the mystery of construction, the insane scale, we still have never found the how-to explanation written down inside the pyramids. No detailed construction records, no blueprint, no step-by-step notes, nothing that says, here is how we built this. You would think that if a group of people pulled off one of the most complex engineering achievements in human history, someone, somewhere, would have documented it in detail. Especially if this project took decades of planning, resources, workers, architects, and overseers. But inside the pyramids, silence, just smooth stone, just the finished result. It is like someone erased the behind-the-scenes footage and left only the final movie. That missing record is one of the things that bothers scientists because major large-scale projects usually leave behind some kind of instructions or notes. You cannot coordinate millions of stone placements without some type of organization, yet the record part is missing. And that leads to the last terrifying point. Modern engineers, people who build skyscrapers, bridges, airports, highways, have admitted on record that rebuilding a pyramid of this size using the same materials and the same level of precision would be extremely difficult even today. Sure, with steel cores and modern machinery, we could build a pyramid-shaped building. That is not the point. The point is, building this exact structure, with this exact stone-on-stone precision, using only methods they supposedly had thousands of years ago, feels almost impossible. And that is why this is not just a cool ancient project. This is one of the few ancient structures that still stands as a type of challenge to modern knowledge. It forces us to ask uncomfortable questions. It forces scientists to admit that maybe we are missing something. Maybe there is a piece of ancient engineering knowledge that has been lost. Maybe the Egyptians understood something about measurement, leverage, cutting, or lifting that we still do not fully understand today. So in the end, the pyramids are not just old monuments, they are puzzles. And the more modern technology advances, the more the pyramids stare back and quietly say, "Figure us out."